to go to the dispatcher himself first because the breaking news that happened today has to do with Apple themselves.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about the Apple launch event, October 13th. This is, of course, the second launch event from Apple this fall, technically, or I guess this half of the year anyway. I think it's their third launch event total this year.
It was very surprising that they did one last month and they're like, and it's happening again this month. I was like,
yeah, the one last month was supposed to be more for the iPad and whatnot, but this is generally their big one of the year of it's the iPhone. So it's the next iPhone that's coming out. It's the iPhone 12. But first, we talked about the HomePod Mini, and then we moved on to the iPhone 12. Now, the HomePod Mini is supposed to be essentially their answer to the HomePod in a smaller, cheaper form, just like every other, home assistant production company has done up to this point. And to be honest, I thought Apple had dropped the HomePod when they realized that Siri can't compete with Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant in the home. So I thought they had just gotten rid of it. I haven't heard anything about the HomePod since it launched.
Okay, Google.
I've got headphones on, so that's not happening.
I know, but it's for all of our listeners.
No.
You're welcome. Okay, delete myself.
No, actually, I'm going to end up blocking that out.
Add dildos to the shopping list.
Okay, add lube to the shopping list.
I've got to mute all that out.
Okay.
I actually have to mute that out.
Add a ground pounding ass hammer to the shopping list.
Anyway, HomePod Mini is essentially just a smaller version of the HomePod. It actually has an interesting feature. The iPhones now come with U1 wideband chips that are supposed to be for directional based pointing at other devices or other iPhones so that they can actually detect and communicate with each other over that and establish like quicker communications like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. The U1 ultra wideband chip is used between your iPhone and your HomePod to be able to quickly share media between them. So, for example, if you're playing a song on your phone or want to play something on the HomePod, you don't necessarily need to tell the HomePod to do it or fiddle around in the UI to do it. You could just kind of go point and maybe press a single button, and suddenly that HomePod specifically that you just pointed at is the one that's playing the music that you're listening to.
And that's amazing because that's what I've always wanted to do. I wanted to pull a freaking Tony Stark and just look at my phone and just start doing this at TVs.
Pull an Iron Man 2 and just go, let me just take over your screens real quick there, just yeah. Now that honestly, that was easily my favorite part from it. Unfortunately, everything else about Siri and the HomePod and HomeKit are awful. Moving on. Next, we went on to the iPhone 12. The iPhone 12 comes in technically 4, but we'll talk about sort of the baseline first, which is the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Mini. From a hardware spec perspective, other than their size, there is no difference between them. They're exactly the same. Pricing is $799 for the base iPhone 12, and the iPhone 12 Mini is $699, which is a super reasonable price, I think, for a brand new phone with an A14 Bionic, which is their new flagship processor that's also available in the Pro versions too. The A14 Bionic comes with a 6-core CPU, 4 low power, 2 high power cores, 4-core GPU, and 16-core neural engine, as well as an image processing dedicated section of the chip, which we'll get into with the Pro version because that's generally where they advertised it. But it does seem to be part of the base model. They didn't talk about it really, but it was part of the graphic that they showed at the end of the regular iPhone 12, as well as it's in the CPU graphics, and they run the same processor, the A14 Bionic.
So 16-core neural engine. It reminds me of Psychopaths. Like, what is this thing? What is a neural engine?
So they're basically machine learning chips. So just like the new RTX graphics cards have dedicated processing cores just to doing machine learning or doing AI, calculations. That's what the neural engine chips are for, because there are more and more things on mobile in particular also that are moving to AI and machine learning to make them more efficient. So that sounds pretty neat. color options going to be black, white, red, green, and blue. The green is more of like Dylan described it.
Green.
Yeah, Dylan described it more as a green tea kind of vibe. Not the tea itself anyway, but sort of that like light green you associate. It is.
I would say a mint green.
They had that with the iPod Mini back in the day.
Yeah.
Or I think it was the Mini.
The green. I mean, honestly, I saw the green and I was like, man, this actually might make me shift over.
That blue is hot.
The blue does look good. It really does. It is super deep, super bright. So of course, every phone, and this is a big thing that they're touting this year, is every phone comes with 5G and can connect to the 5G nationwide networks, like the long range, standard wavelength versions, as well as the millimeter wave 5G versions that are available in urban areas to get up to, and they said in actual testing, it had shown 4 gigabit per second, which is obscene for wireless communication. Now, millimeter wave, if you watch any of the videos on it, or what 5G millimeter wave is you have to be line of sight to the tower to be able to do it, which is why they're generally placed on top of street poles or are on top of light poles or somewhere, close to ground level to be able to communicate directly with people like that. But still, great tech to implement. Samsung, of course, was the first one to do it, and they had an interesting tweet response that said, if you really just wanted the most up-to-date tech, you could have already purchased these products that come with this. So that was a great response by them.
So Apple is still using Samsung chips, right?
Yes and no. So Samsung has some hand in some of the hardware that's used inside the iPhones, like the OLED screens, for example, are generally sourced from Samsung. They do have some other chips and whatnot that come in there, but the processors themselves, like the big central processing units on the phones that implement 5G and the antennas and everything like that, that's all done in-house. Designed by Apple, probably built by somebody else, but I don't know.
Probably why it's called A16 or whatever the hell it is now.
A14, yeah. So A14, they've been running their A chips in iPhones for a while now. They're ARM-based chips, which the A14 Bionic or whatever the desktop version of that is going to be is what we can expect in the soon to come. Supposedly the announcement's going to be by the end of this month, maybe early into November, for the new Mac line that's going to be completely ARM and A chip based, which is what they had teased at WWDC at the beginning of the year. And I'm super excited for this because I'm probably going to get a MacBook if it actually shows decent real world specs or decent real world performance anyway from the new hardware. So
I just want to point this out that you're the biggest hypocrite on the show. You have become an Apple fanboy and you were vehemently did everything you absolutely could to tell Dylan he was wrong about Apple. And here you are buying complete Apple shit. I'm gonna start. Go get you a tattoo with Apple on your butt cheek or something.
No. John's. I'll say John is half right. John's half right. I've always been against Apple, but I never really knew anything deep about it because I'd never owned one.
Oh, so it's a theological thing then, like something philosophical, I guess.
More or less.
You got to be a part of it. You got to.
It's all about the religion.
Yeah. Oh God, no.
The cultism of Apple.
No, not the cult.
One of us.
Anyway, moving forward, from the tech spec perspective, next thing up is the Retina Xdr Display. It's supposed to be based on sort of their lower tech version of their Pro XDR display. I believe the number was 460 pixels per inch, which is supposed to be obscenely tight. Like you're not gonna, be able to notice pixels at all, no matter how close you get to the screen. Next, moving on to the outside of the screen is the ceramic shield screen protection, which is actual like ceramic material that's used instead of, and so the industry standards to go with Corning's Gorilla Glass.
Oh, yeah.
And every year they come out with a new Corning Gorilla Glass. Oh, it's supposed to be this much better and this, that, the other. So they're stepping away from that and they're going to ceramic shield screen protection is what they're calling it. And they specifically touting a number of 4 times better drop performance.
I'm sure a lot of high school students are very excited about that.
No, I'm sure a lot of high school parents parents of high schoolers are particularly
there we go.
happy about it. Yeah, I know. I had to correct that one.
High schooler a brand new line iPhone right now.
Providence High School is right up the road from here.
I was gonna say, I'm not that far from Audrey Kell here, so
yeah, there's plenty of people who do. Also, you're not wrong, Mark. The high school parents are also really happy about it.
Fair. I'm
sorry.
So moving on to the next touty feature anyway about iPhones anyway that generally carries as sort of their top tier or top tier performing or top tier competing element anyway of these phones is the cameras. The baseline iPhone and the iPhone Mini are going to be running 2 cameras on the back, standard and a wide angle, running the standard, I believe it's a 12 megapixel sensor for each, which is also kind of unique. Yeah, it's 12 megapixel sensor because it's the same sensor for both cameras, just different lens arrays. And the whole point of that is that you get the same night mode, the same photo quality benefits of both sensors without having to change up what lens you're using, because maybe one gets better performance for low light scenarios as opposed to highlight scenarios. Which I think is great. They're implementing 2 sensors that do exactly the same thing with different uses essentially in there to keep the playing field pretty level, depending, no matter what kind of shooting scenario you're in. You can always get a pretty standard application out of it. Standard front camera anyway, but that also does support a new night mode and roughly the same features as the rear, but smaller sensor and everything for the front. Next, I think, is my favorite feature of the new iPhone series, the 12, the 12 Mini, the Pro, and the Pro Max, because realistically, every company should have done this at some point. Qi wireless charging has been a staple feature for flagship phones for a while now, but it's always been sort of a problem to maybe find that spot on your phone where the induction coil actually sits to get the optimal charging for it. So now Apple built in sort of a magnet system and a set of rings for NFC, the induction charging loop and whatnot around a magnet system, so that whenever you want to charge your phone, you use a new Qi wireless MagSafe specific charger from Apple. It clicks to the magnet on the back of your phone and perfectly centers it every time.
Nice.
Oh, interesting. That is really cool, actually.
Now, with that, they've actually decided they're going to go with accessories. So a lot of people like to put a wallet on the back of their phone. So using the same magnet, they have a magnetic click wallet that'll click back there.
Good on them.
I think that's a super neat idea. That's really something that a lot of other manufacturers should probably look at, because aligning your phone just right to do it is kind of difficult. And it's not practical from a hardware perspective to just put 2 or more induction coils, for example, or a big induction coil on the back of the phone to handle, wireless charging anywhere on the thing. From a technical perspective, one, I don't quite know if that can actually be done or not. And second, this just is a better solution to make sure it's done right every single time. So,
yeah.
Plus, it really gets rid of the stigma that you can't put magnets next to electronics. Really, you should take your strongest magnet, put it next to every electronic you have in the house.
And you know where you can find your strongest magnet?
Please don't do that.
In your microwave.
In your microwave. They just throw it right there.
Yeah.
It'll charge it in 5 seconds.
I'm surprised I didn't see the meme about microwave charging come out yet for this. So
30 seconds.
Please don't do that. 5 seconds. Full disclaimer, please, for the love of God, do not stick your brand new iPhone 12
make sure you throw it in the microwave first.
And if you don't listen to this disclaimer and you put it in there anyway, you deserved what came to you, to be honest.
I really want Mark to put it across the bottom that we do not condone putting it like that.
Yeah, if you really want to charge it fast, though, you throw it into a one of the pots you put on the stove, throw that in the microwave, too.
Yeah,
double it.
No.
With some water.
No.
It's water.
Don't do any of the things that we've just mentioned. Aside from the disclaimer, listen to the disclaimer I just said.
That's right. Mark is a part of this.
All right. So next, actually, these 2 points actually I should probably put at the bottom. But we'll move on to the iPhone 12 Pro.
So before you move on, I just want to ask the difference between the Mini and the standard. I assume is just size.
Screen size. That's literally it.
Yeah. What's the size of the Mini? Because I think I was hearing comparisons to iPhone 4. which is weird
Whoa,
to say.
is it that small?
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty damn
It looks like
small.
6 or 7 to me.
Don't see where the screen size list is here.
Because the 12 almost reminded me of like what the 8X or Max X size would be.
It's a 7.5, 7.9-inch screen, which I believe is similar.
A 6.
Yeah, I don't remember what the screen sizes were for the two. Oh, here we go. 5.4 for the mini and 6.1 for the standard, which is 5.4 is small. I mean,
yeah, that is tiny.
Just so
that's iPhone 4 level.
It's actually still larger than the iPhone 4, which is only 3.5.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's because the black part at the bottom. I bet you if you increase that.
Yeah, and I mean, to put that up to comparison anyway, this is 11 or 11 6 point. The iPhone 11 Pro is 6.4.
This is 11 inches right here.
6.46 inches from corner to corner, which is, I mean,
This
it's
is
pretty substantial size difference. So
this is why you go Android, baby.
Anyway, moving on to the Pro. So you have the Pro and the Pro Max. They're listed for $999 and $1099 respectively. Both feature sets across these, again, are exactly the same. The only difference is screen size and actually, I'm sorry, for the other ones too, battery capacity is also affected, of course, because bigger screen, more battery to drive, this, that, the other. But other than that, it's the same hardware. From a color perspective, 4 color options available here: Pacific Blue, Gold, Graphite, and Silver. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Gold, but wow.
She gold.
It's like a shimmery, like reflective gold on the band around the outside. It's really pretty looking. And okay. The big joke that was coming out there is I don't know if you've heard of the Escobar phones. So,
yes, I've heard of the Escobar phones.
So for those who don't know, the Escobar phone's basically supposed to be an iPhone, or I don't know if they do other models or not. That come out every year for the latest updated version. The idea is it's put in a case and has parts changed out that are actually done in like a 24 karat gold, essentially, or a certain carat of gold anyway, all the way around it. And it's sold at an exorbitantly high price. But gold is really a good look for it. And I know a lot of people are going to get it because it's way over the top. Not for me personally, but it's a good look.
So while we're on the topic of color, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a nice color. Like not just the gold, but all of them with the side finish being very shiny and sleek, and then the matte finish almost on the back.
Yep,
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Well, and
we also have
the back is still glass too, so it's still going to have that same sort of shimmer to it as well. You know,
we have someone who is part of our Strange Gaming group who is also a fan of the podcast, or someone we know from the podcast, who is going to be very excited about less bezel. Bezel.
Yeah.
Bezel. Yeah. Mr. Collins, because he cannot get over more bezel, less, but the less bezel, the better.
Yeah. Of course. No,
the
so
could just literally be there. It'd be great.
Yeah. So less bezeling is definitely going to be part of the new 6.7-inch Pro XDR display that's implemented with the base one, and I have to find the screen size for the Max because I didn't see it. 6.7 is for the Max, 6.1 is for the regular Pro or the standard Pro. So they're both really large screen sizes, of course. From the camera perspective, moving around the back side, of course, there are 3 cameras on the back and a total of 4 cameras, of course. The standard 3 camera array, shaped up just about the same anyway as the one on the back of the iPhone here. That same sort of like right triangle look. The difference being that there is now a Lidar sensor placed next to them. And I'll get into what the Lidar sensor is supposed to be for. Those who have seen the existing iPad Pro will have already seen its uses and whatnot from that, but it also adds a new feature in here. As far as photo taking goes, there's a new feature built into this, or into the iPhones now, called Deep Fusion. And Deep Fusion is essentially supposed to be their new super HDR machine learning based image processing that happens real time, which is why there's a whole dedicated piece called the ISP, the Integrated Something Processor, that's on the A14 Bionic, and it's kind of nutty from what it's capable of doing, because from a photo perspective, yeah, that sounds fine. And Apple being able to implement their own new Deep Fusion tech, as well as offer a new RAW version of photos called Apple Pro RAW for people who edit photos. RAW is definitely the way to go to be able to manipulate the photos however you want. Well, Apple's new Pro RAW, specifically for the iPhone 12 and the way that it takes pictures with the Deep Fusion machine learning tech, basically keeps all of that built-in HDR functionality without you having to take multiple stops of dynamic range at once, but give you the ability to edit it like a raw photo. So you keep all of the... What's that?
No.
There's nothing like Deep Fusion when you're Pro RAW.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a little nutty, but it works.
Yep, exactly. No, but you get to edit them like raw photos, like you would as a photographer normally would, coming from a Canon or a Sony camera. But you get to keep all of the functionality,
as if you were in the black light room with the red lights, and you're just like sifting it into the fluid, right? Okay, we should move on.
Anyway, so probably the biggest drop that they had from the camera perspective for these for the Pro line of phones is the 10-bit HDR video recording at 4K 60 with Dolby Vision HDR in real time. So part of that ISP chip. Okay, first off, you don't record 10-bit HDR on a camera without spending a ton of money to get a really nice video camera from Sony or from Blackmagic or something like that to get 10-bit color and 4K, especially at 60 frames, with and let alone like having Dolby Vision HDR implemented. Like that's just not something you get on the fly like that. So the fact that they're cramming it into something that's smaller and thinner than the iPhone 11 Pro Max right now is insane.
Bigfoot beware.
We were sort of joking on the call or on the little group chat that we had while we were watching the event. Why would you buy a digital camera or a video camera at this point? Buy a case that does lens covers, whatever, for the iPhone and expand your lens range, and suddenly you've got the best shooting photo and video device available on the market for much less than you'd actually buy a photo or video camera.
And it's all compact.
Right. And it's a phone all in one, you still have all the other features that come with it. There is just no reason otherwise.
What's the storage amount with these?
What's that?
What's the storage?
You can go 128, 256, or 512, I think, on the Pros.
Okay.
You can
make sure
you can dig pretty. You can get pretty ridiculous storage with it.
Honestly, 512, I don't feel like it's that ridiculous, because nowadays they got SD cards that go up to a terabyte.
Yeah.
That you could use with Android phone.
And it's not even so much the availability of other storage that's out there. It's also the fact that the size of the photos and videos that we take now are much larger. I mean, recording a 10-bit HDR 4K 60 frame video is going to eat up the video sizes anyway. Like to put it in perspective anyway, each of the video files that we record here of 1080p 30 frames a second for this podcast over the course of about an hour and a half, 2.5 hours, depending on how long it takes certain people to join us. And that sometimes those files can push 2 gigabytes. Well, now multiply that by 4 for 4K, multiply that by 2 for double the frame rate, and then multiply it by another, I don't know, I'll just pull it out of my ass and say 2 to 3 times on top of that to account for the fact that you're now recording in 10-bit color and you're recording HDR. like the sizes that you're going to use for this, if you want to record any kind of like long video, short form, like short clip, long assembly kind of, videos, or even long form content, is going to get obscene. So having the large storage is definitely worth it now.
Well, yeah, Apple's definitely going to be cashing in on the storage.
Well, yeah. I mean, bigger videos, bigger photos means more iCloud storage. You don't have to. Google Photos will let you store all of that. I will say store high quality versions for free, or give you more storage for cheaper to store all of it in the original format. So I would definitely recommend that.
Happening here soon enough.
Anyway, so the last bit I wanted to mention about the iPhone 12 Pro series in particular is the Lidar Scanner. So the last iPad Pro that came out came with a LiDAR scanner on the back of it, and it was purely for business purposes. The idea was, you could have apps that would scan rooms and allow you to do placements and layouts, and even doing some like light survey of a small area, that kind of thing. Like there were a lot of app features in AR, that kind of thing that would be particularly useful here. And
Pokemon Go does this a lot, where you can take pictures with your Pokemon in the room you're in, so you can just have them just chilling.
Yep,
great.
And then LiDAR would be able to know how big it is and put them life size inside the room for you. Look at that.
See, I do want that because I want my Lugia to be.
Every time I hear that name, I just think.
Anyway, so the one feature from the iPad Pro that I said was straight up missing with the LiDAR sensor was autofocus. Autofocus has been done with lasers before, like coming off the camera to determine based on the center point of where you're pointing the camera, like how far it should autofocus on. Well, with a LiDAR sensor, that goes out in every direction and can read back full image data or full data about the three-dimensional space to determine what the autofocus length should be and snap there in almost a second as soon as you tap it. Well, now that's part of this. So the LiDAR scanner is coming on the back of the iPhone Pros, which, of course, for professionals who use that kind of thing for surveying, for room scanning, for AR, whatever, that's definitely going to be useful. For photo or photography people, of course, the LiDAR-based autofocus is going to be very, very quick and snappy. So the last points I wanted to make here, the first bit is sort of a reiteration of what we heard at WWDC, as well as the iPhone and Apple Watch announcement, is that Apple wants to go completely carbon neutral by 2030. And that includes every bit of the chain from beginning to end of where they source the materials from, to assembly process and manufacturing, to even shipping and logistics, which is actually a big part or a big contributor, of the carbon emissions, for example, that are in the air for shipping just alone. So one of the big steps that they're taking in this direction, and there's a lot of mixed feelings about it anyway, from a market perspective or from an analysis perspective, is that they're no longer including the power adapter in the box.
Yeah, this was a weird one to me.
Yeah, so it's half and half. I know they did it because they talked about going carbon neutral, but I also think it was strictly to lower cost.
So the price of the phone has not changed. It's still well over $1,000. It's still $1,100 for the top tier phone if you want to get it, or the starting price of the top tier phone, rather, I should say. To be fair, the power adapter is not as much of a cost there realistically. I understand the negative point, or the devil side of this, I should say, for Apple of, it's cheaper for us because we don't have to pack it in this box now. We can spend less on the actual packaging itself, and we don't have to spend anywhere near as much money to get it to you. We're just but you're still giving us the same amount of money anyway. But the other side of it, of course, it doesn't cost us as much to ship them now either. Now, the other side of that is, we don't have to put as many trucks on the road to ship them because we can more compactly place these iPhone boxes, or pallets of iPhones, into these trucks to ship them out across the country, which means fewer trucks, which means less carbon emissions. Plus, the production of these is not going to be anywhere near as high because there aren't going to be as many Apple or iPhone chargers floating in the wind that people aren't using anymore or getting tossed into dumps. Cool. Yeah, I get that point too. But
I
it's
highly
kind of
doubt that you're going to have
50-50.
trucks that are too full of iPhones that said, we could have dropped this down to one truck if we could do this. No, that's not how that works. Most of these people are going to be ordering by the box. They're going to be there regardless if they order 2 fucking boxes or 1 box for that day. And they strictly did this just to lower cost to make up. I mean, you're talking about, even if they saved $1, they saved on $1 on every single iPhone they are going to sell.
Yeah.
I'd imagine they saved less than $1 per iPhone, but you're right. They are saving money. I think the problem right now is that it just seems like a weird play. One, you didn't say, so I assume they did not change the charging cable. I know there's a lot of fervor for people to move to USB-C, but
I thought they were going to move to USB-C.
It is still Lightning on the iPhone end. It is still USB-C on the charger end for the standard iPhone charger, whatever that you can purchase now separately. So, but no, I cannot imagine a world where they actually go to USB-C, as nice as it would be, and as much as I would hope for that.
I agree. They're way too much into their own ubiquity. Like they want to make sure that you are utilizing their standard, regardless of whether or not that's easy on you or not.
They have too much market share for them to give a shit. To be honest, they control the entire the factor 100%. Of it. Even now, people are making junk Thunderbolt cables, and they're making money off of it. They're not now. So what they thought they were going to be making is not necessarily, I think, there.
Yeah. Well, and I think for Apple, that would sort of be a losing factor for them too, from the market of the charging cables themselves. They would actually benefit more from building another proprietary connector that maybe supports 100%. USB 3.2 or 3.2 Gen 1 or something like that instead, to then improve, charging performance, for example, but also at the same time, suddenly everyone's got to buy a brand new set of chargers all over again, just like they did when they moved to the old wide iPhone connector to the iPod connector to the new Lightning connector.
And guess what? It's no longer included with the phone. So I would be okay.
I have a hard time that they sold something that needs to be charged with a fucking charging cable.
My big problem is how much is an actual Lightning cable charger? Like, how much is a charger for an iPhone?
Un momento.
Because if they're charging roughly costs with a little bit of profit for I would wager $5, that's fine. But I don't think they're charging $5. I think they're charging probably closer to 10 or 15.
Oh, let's see.
My money's on 15. Because every one of those is going to come with a brick.
To be honest, I don't see. Oh, here we go. Brazil.
We can't buy them. We can't buy them.
Well, it's not listed on their accessories page right off the rip here. Here we go. Power and cables. So the cable itself for a 1 meter USB-C to Lightning cable is $19. The power brick is another $19 as a separate product or a separate device.
Fucking extortion! This is fucking extortion.
Yeah, 100%. How are you going to sell an electronic without a power cable?
So that's for the
How are
that's
people
for the
not outraged about this. The part is that all these cultist motherfuckers are like, it's cool.
They're like, wait, we got a new iPhone. It's got a pretty little rim. I'll buy it.
It's because we're saving the environment, in doing it, of course. No, it's a money grab that they're phrasing out, and I get it. I get. I guess both sides of this. I don't. Technically, it does save up on some things because it's lighter shipping. It's less for them to spend. But at the same time, it does reduce the amount of carbon emissions that they do put out there too. So
you can never have enough charging cables. Everywhere you go, you wish there was one just chilling on the wall somewhere.
Well, the question will really come down to the fact of how much they have to spend after the fact. Because here's the issue: if you are already selling extra charge cables, the amount goes up, and that's extra packaging and shipping. You're not saving anything.
Nope. And they have to get that somewhere. They have to get it to you. Or is that Amazon truck going to take that 5-cent piece of shit all the way from freaking Ohio all the way down here?
Right, but their point is, like, for most people that are buying iPhones, they already have iPhones. They already have lightning cables. They already have 20-watt chargers. Like, for me, for example,
those people aren't upset. We're not hearing a huge argument, but the new people are going to be pissed.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's going to, like, they're probably going to, like, if you're a new customer purchasing it through the Apple Store, for example, they're going to say, hey, here's also this and this. You're going to need to buy these too, or whatever. So
here's the Apple tax.
But they're the minority. they're going to be the minority because the market share is so saturated that you're not going to even hear these people.
I mean, the only other way they get around that is if whenever you buy an iPhone as a new user, the first time, for example, when you buy your iPhone, that they give you an option to purchase that or not purchase, rather include that as well. That's the only way they get around that. Like, for example, I have the option to say, whatever, I'm upgrading, so they're not going to send me one by default because the anticipation is I already have one at least. So
agreed.
Maybe
I'm also not a fan of the quality of
that's the only way that they get around that.
Charging cables, they like after about your course through the phone, the cable's about done.
So that was kind of my thought process too, is like, depending on how rough you are in cables, when you buy a new phone, the extra charge, like that new charger, that extra charger is actually replacing what you have already.
Yeah.
It's just most of the time, it's like a month after you get your new phone, you're like, man, this thing's raggedy as all get. The wire's coming. Oh man, I got to replace. Oh, that's right. I kept the box that this came in.
Yeah.
Let me pull that brand new puppy out.
Yeah. With the old chargers. Yeah. Like that was definitely a problem for me with like my old iPod video. Was that wide cable and that really rubbery kind of material they did for the outside coating was pretty bad. Like it would tear and pull and all that stuff pretty easily.
With the new wireless charger, how much is that?
What's that?
The new wireless charger.
$39 for just the cable. That doesn't include the wall wart. That's for the MagSafe.
It's super nice is that I can buy a 3-pack of USB-C cables for $7.99 on Amazon, and then a power brick to go with it. Like I have trouble believing that they can't find a better system for this.
I don't even believe them about their fucking economical carbon footprint bullshit.
Because if they want to do the carbon footprint thing, like again, like there's a way, exactly what you described, Mark, which is, hey, we have all this empirical data on Apple users. We tout it as a means to like make sure we purvey and provide the exact experience that we want for you. So we can determine that and send it to the people who need it and the people who don't.
Right.
So
I wish they'd send advertisements with everybody's new phone. Everybody would get Pornhub advertisements.
Jesus
Christ.
This was your most visited site last year.
I do like the variety. I feel like Apple is getting better about that, right? We have $6.99 all the way up to $10.99. Well, that's great. We're not reaching the $12.99, which did happen one year, which I thought was pretty fucking extraneous in my opinion.
Yeah, that was the iPhone 10, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
awful.
But and that was the first year of like no fingerprint reader and a bunch of other stuff, that they had sort of moved away from. You were talking about USB-C. How much were the USB-C cables?
You get 3 for $7.99.
Okay, that's not bad. I'm showing 5 for 15 or for 5 lightning cables for $16.99. Those are braided.
There we go. Finally.
Yeah. There are other options out there, and realistically, everyone else should probably go with those other options.
100%.
Unless you're going with the MagSafe, like there's really no other option at this point for that.
Yeah.
And it's neat tech as it is, and once somebody replicates that, probably Anchor, then you'll start to see more of those pop up. But
I'm gonna be really curious to see how the rub down on this magnet that's grabbing on this phone as it's twisting and turning as you're pulling it off. And
we have to remember it's a glass on the back, so you don't have to worry too much about it.
Assuming that there's nothing on that magnet that would have got a hold of it.
There's a piece of rubber surrounding the magnet. So if you actually look at, I'll pull up a picture and send it to you. But there's like
but any metal shaving can get caught up on that from anything. Like
oh no, totally. Like if a big enough piece of dirt or something like that gets on there, or like a food chunk or something like that, and you click that and it wiggles around as you're like maybe holding it or playing around with it or pulling it off or on or something like that, it's still gonna grind in there. So
is the back glass or sapphire? What is the glass?
It's glass.
Supposed to be glass, yeah.
I
don't know if I think they are actually using the same ceramic material. Actually, come to think of it, on the back as well.
That is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So 40 minutes into this topic, how do you feel about this series of announcements? Like, well, I'll let you have your thoughts, and then I'll go.
The A14 Bionic, I think, is a good play for them. The base iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Mini, I think, are okay. I think the pricing structure on the iPhone 12 Mini is great for a lot of people, because that definitely puts it in iPhone SE kind of purchase territory, as well as putting it in like cheap flagship, like what OnePlus does, for example, in their territory, and definitely competes well there. Plus, you get a decent, XDR display, 5G's built in. I think there are good options there. MagSafe definitely being sort of an interesting bit for that. Although wireless charging was already there, and once you learn your phone, it's really not that big a deal. But MagSafe is still good tech if you want to have accessories and whatnot. From the Pro perspective, the Lidar Scanner part of that does not matter to me one bit. I'm not a contractor, professional, whatever. The autofocus is the only benefit that I really see from that. The 10-bit HDR video recording definitely means that a lot of the other videos that we might record for this channel, to be honest, are probably going to happen on iPhones, because I know Dylan's probably going to have an iPhone 12 Pro Max sitting on pre-order as soon as it's ready. November 6th when that drops. By the way, November 13th is when they ship.
It's an expensive in November.
Yeah. But I don't see a particular reason for me to upgrade. Now I am on the Apple upgrade program, so once my 1 year is up or whatever, I can trade this phone in and get one again, keeping my same pricing structure. So, when that happens, I may end up doing that just because it's an availability. But short of that, I wouldn't see the justification in going from this to that.
Yeah.
Just because, one, there is no upgraded 120 hertz refresh rate display like we had hoped to see, which would have been the only user experience thing that I particularly miss about my OnePlus 7. Is and actually that only had 90 hertz, I think, but still that higher hertz right
here.
That higher hertz refresh rate it's butter. That higher hertz refresh rate is buttery smooth. It just feels wonderful. And short of that being a full on experience, game changer, I don't see a real reason to upgrade to this yet.
That's such a hard thing to explain to people. It's the same with gaming a lot, where I moved from playing The Last of Us on PS3 at 30 frames per second to moving to PS4 for 60. And it's like a similar, you can't describe it. It's just there. It just feels that much better, and you never want to go back.
Oh, well, so I literally have it side by side on my desktop. My monitor to the left here is a 60 hertz 1080p, and the one in front of me is an ultra wide 1440p 120 hertz. Yeah. And I can just moving a window between the two monitors is just night and day difference between the way they look. And you can definitely feel it at that point. But short of that, because that was really a game changer in the way that the phone feels in your hand whenever you're moving, scrolling through things, launching apps, pulling down the notification tray, whatever, that is definitely a game changer. So short of that, no, I don't have a particular reason to upgrade here other than maybe the video recording, but I don't record all that much video with my iPhone in the first place. So
I like the pricing structure. I think it's stupid if they don't have a fucking charge cord.
I do like the pricing structure. I agree with you on the charge cord and the pricing structure. I think that the only complaint I have is why the fuck is this separate from the last event in September? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Because they weren't ready. It was initially supposed to be, and that was the rumor. But then they ended up behind apparently the supply chain. Yeah,
hold off the last one until now.
No. Why would you hold off the iPhone or the Apple Watch 6 and the new iPad Air and come on.
so you are the person who covered this topic for the show. Obviously, you watched the event, you did the whole spiel. I was working and refreshing various news pages to be like, all right, what's going on? I'm going to figure out what's going on. And they're like, hey, we've got the iPhone 12 and we've got the HomePod Mini. And I was like, that's just the beginning, right?
Nope, that's it.
Right?
Yeah, and the Mac event is supposed to be either later this month or in early November.
Why? Stop! Just do it.
They want your attention on this one thing. What you're excited about?
We're not covering the Mac event because I'm boycotting their stupid plan to split across 3.
No, well, to be fair, I don't think there's going to be a ton to talk about at the Mac event because they've already talked about it at WWDC what they're going to be doing. So,
boom.
Like, I don't really.
We're not covering it, folks.
Short of some spectacular new technology getting thrown in, no. Like realistically, it's gonna be the same tech just thrown into another computer. Less short of them putting like Face ID or something like that into them now. So,
alrighty. Well, let us know what you think about the iPhone event. I'm gonna call it the iPhone event because it was an iPhone event.
100%.
With a prologue of HomePod Mini. In the comments floating directly.
A prologue. Sorry.
Whoa. Prolapse. Right in front of the dispatcher himself, in front of his happy hour emblem. You can see the comment section right there. Because he's like a Superman without any powers and very hungover half the time on Wednesday. But I think it's time to move on to Handsome John himself.